Knights represent superheroes of the Middle Ages. Get to know more about 8 of the greatest and toughest medieval knights. When we evoke the Middle Ages, images of fortified castles, mighty kings, and great knights in armor immediately come to mind. In the collective imagination, knights, whether real or fictitious, represent superheroes of the Middle Ages. They jousted in their shiny armor, wearing a token of their damsel's love. Kings, lords, and popes granted the title of knighthood to men appointed to serve as mounted warriors. At first, a simple function, knighthood became a lower nobility title during the High Middle Ages. Along with the development of chivalry in literature, medieval knights became more than simple warriors. The chivalry ideal implied following a code of conduct, serving one's lord and king, showing bravery, being pious, and sometimes rescuing the damsel in distress. Knights still fascinate today. Countless tales, novels, and movies exalt these fearless warriors with an impeccable moral. We will not evoke legendary knights such as the famous King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. Instead, read along to discover more about great medieval knights who really existed. Sometimes history blends with the legend. The knights' impressive achievements have been told and written for centuries, with added embellishments. Yet, it does not diminish their remarkable feats. Number 1. Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, also known as El Cid Campeador. Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, better known as El Cid or El Cid Campeador, is one of the most iconic figures in Spanish medieval history. His life, marked by military genius, political complexity, and enduring legend, made him a national hero of Spain. Born around 1043 in the small village of Vivar near Burgos, in the Kingdom of Castile, Rodrigo came from the lower nobility, but quickly rose through the ranks thanks to his bravery and tactical skill. He began his military career under King Sancho II of Castile, where he proved himself on the battlefield and earned the title El Campeador, meaning Master of the Battlefield. This was a rare honor, signifying his dominance in combat and his exceptional leadership. After Sancho's assassination, Rodrigo transferred his loyalty to Sancho's brother, King Alfonso VI, despite the political tension between them. Rodrigo's relationship with Alfonso VI was uneasy. In 1081, following a political dispute, Rodrigo was exiled from Castile. During his exile, he entered the service of the Muslim ruler Al-Mu'taman Billah of Zaragoza, fighting against both Christian and Muslim forces as a mercenary. It was during this period that he became known as El Cid, derived from the Arabic word Sidi, meaning lord or master. His collaboration with Muslim leaders was pragmatic rather than ideological, reflecting the shifting alliances of the time. El Cid's military brilliance shone brightest during the later stages of the Reconquista, particularly in his conquest of Valencia in 1094. There he ruled independently until his death in 1099. His victories were not only military but also political, as he managed to maintain order and authority in a city of mixed Christian and Muslim populations. This balance of power showcased his diplomatic skill and strategic thinking. Beyond his battlefield achievements, El Cid is also remembered for his legendary romance with Jimena Diaz, a noblewoman and niece of King Alfonso VI. Their relationship became the subject of numerous literary works, including the 17th century French play Le Cid by Pierre Corneille. Though heavily fictionalized, the play helped elevate El Cid's status in European culture, portraying him as a tragic hero torn between love and honor. After his death, El Cid became a symbol of Spanish unity, courage, and honor. His legacy was cemented through epic poems, chronicles, and legends, particularly the Cantar de Mio Cid, one of the oldest surviving works in Spanish literature. To this day, El Cid remains a defining figure of medieval Spain and a symbol of heroic virtue. Number 2. Godfrey of Bouillon, the First Crusader. Godfrey of Bouillon stands as one of the most iconic figures of the First Crusade and a symbol of the ideal Christian knight. Though a historical figure, his legacy was quickly elevated into legend, turning him into the archetype of the fearless, pious warrior devoted to faith and duty. His life embodied the spirit of the crusading era, a time when European knights took up arms to fight for religious ideals and reclaim sacred territories. Born around 1058 into the powerful Bouillon family, Godfrey was the second son of Eustace II, Count of Boulogne, a nobleman who had supported William the Conqueror at the Battle of Hastings. As a younger son, Godfrey was not expected to inherit his father's lands or title. However, his uncle, Duke Godfrey VI of Lower Lorraine, nicknamed the Hunchback, had no children and passed on his duchy to his nephew. This inheritance included a vast territory spanning what is now parts of Belgium and the Netherlands. Godfrey later took his name from Bouillon Castle, one of his main holdings. In 1095, Pope Urban II called upon Christian nobles to take back Jerusalem from Muslim control. This appeal marked the beginning of the First Crusade. Unlike many nobles who hesitated, Godfrey answered the call with unwavering faith. He sold or mortgaged much of his land to finance the expedition, demonstrating his deep religious commitment. He led one of the main Crusader armies and endured the treacherous 3-year journey toward the Holy Land. In June 1099, after years of battle, starvation, and hardship, the Crusaders reached Jerusalem. The siege was brutal, but the city eventually fell. Godfrey was reportedly the first to scale the walls during the final assault, leading his men to victory. Chroniclers like Tancred of Galilee wrote of his heroic deeds, including a moment where he is said to have cleaved an enemy soldier entirely in two with a single strike. His courage and discipline made a lasting impression. Following the city's capture, the Crusaders offered him the crown of Jerusalem. However, Godfrey refused to be called king in the land where Christ had worn a crown of thorns. Instead, he humbly accepted the title Protector of the Holy Sepulchre, placing spiritual leadership above worldly power. Godfrey died unexpectedly in 1100, only a year after the conquest, possibly from illness or poison. His early death only enhanced his legendary status. To many, Godfrey of Bouillon became the very model of the selfless knight, fighting not for riches or glory but for faith, sacrifice, and divine purpose. Number 3. William Marshal, England's greatest medieval knight. William Marshal, often hailed as England's greatest knight, rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most respected and powerful figures of medieval Europe. Born around 1146 into a minor noble family, William's early life gave little indication of the legendary status he would one day achieve. Through unmatched loyalty, martial skill, and political acumen, he served 5 English kings and left a lasting legacy in both English history and the ideals of knighthood. William began his formal training to become a knight at the age of 12, as was common in the 12th century. He quickly distinguished himself through courage, discipline, and an unwavering sense of honor. During his early years, he lived the life of a knight-errant, traveling across Europe in search of tournaments and combat. This was more than mere sport. It was a way for knights to earn fame, fortune, and valuable connections. William's prowess in these competitions became legendary. He was rarely defeated, and his success earned him both admiration and wealth. His reputation eventually caught the attention of the English crown. He entered royal service under King Henry II and quickly rose through the ranks. What made William exceptional was not just his martial talent, but his fierce loyalty. He went on to serve Henry II's sons, including the infamous Richard the Lionheart and King John. Under these rulers, William often played a diplomatic role as well as a military one. In 1189, he was rewarded for his service with the hand of Isabel de Clare, one of the richest heiresses in the land. This marriage elevated William to the ranks of the most powerful nobles in England. William's role in shaping English history peaked during the reign of King John. Amid civil unrest and rebellion from the barons, William became a key figure in negotiating peace, helping lay the groundwork for the Magna Carta in 1215. After John's death, William was named protector and regent for the young Henry III. In his 70s, like an extraordinary age at the time, William still led armies in battle and governed the realm with wisdom. He died in 1219 at the age of 72, a rare longevity for a medieval warrior. His life was later immortalized in a detailed biography, L'Histoire de Guillaume le Maréchal, making him one of the best documented knights of the era. William Marshal remains a symbol of true chivalry and one of England's greatest medieval heroes. Number 4, William Wallace, the famous Scottish knight. William Wallace remains one of the most celebrated and enduring symbols of Scottish resistance and national pride. Known for his unwavering courage and defiance against English rule, Wallace's life became the foundation for countless legends, literary works, and cinematic portrayals, most notably the 1995 film Braveheart. Though the historical record is often sparse or romanticized, Wallace's legacy as a fearless knight and patriot is unquestioned. Born around 1270 in Scotland, likely near Elderslie or Ellerslie in Renfrewshire, Wallace did not come from the high nobility but was still part of the lesser aristocracy. Unlike many knights of his time, Wallace's rise to prominence was not through royal favor or inheritance, but through rebellion. His name first appeared in historical records in 1297 when he killed William Hazelrig, the English-appointed sheriff of Lanark. This act, reportedly committed in vengeance for the murder of Marion Bradefute, believed to be Wallace's wife or lover, ignited his war against the English occupation. That same year, Wallace rallied Scottish nobles and commoners alike in what would become the First War of Scottish Independence. Alongside Andrew Moray, he led a small but determined army against the much larger and better-equipped English forces. Their most significant victory came on September 11th, 1297, at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Utilizing clever tactics, Wallace and Moray allowed the English to cross the narrow bridge in small numbers, then attacked with speed and precision. The English suffered a devastating defeat, and Wallace's reputation as a brilliant military leader was sealed. Following this victory, Wallace was appointed guardian of the Kingdom of Scotland in the name of the exiled King John Balliol. For a time, he became the de facto leader of the Scottish resistance. However, his political and military power was short-lived. In 1298, Wallace suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Falkirk against King Edward III's army, leading to his resignation as guardian. Despite the loss, Wallace remained a threat to English rule for years. In 1305, he was captured near Glasgow by fellow Scot John de Menteith, who handed him over to the English. Wallace was taken to London, put on trial for treason, and sentenced to a brutal execution. Refusing to submit to Edward I, he was drawn, hanged, disemboweled, and quartered, a punishment meant to crush Scottish resistance. Instead, his martyrdom transformed him into a symbol of national freedom. Monuments like the Wallace Monument near Stirling keep his memory alive, and to this day, William Wallace stands as a powerful icon of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring Scottish spirit. Number 5. Robert the Bruce, the knight who became King of Scotland. Robert the Bruce is remembered as one of Scotland's greatest national heroes, a knight who overcame political intrigue, betrayal, and military defeat to become King of Scots and secure Scotland's independence. His journey from nobleman to monarch and liberator is one of the most dramatic stories of medieval Europe. Born in 1274 into a powerful noble family, Robert was the grandson of Robert de Bruce, the 5th Lord of Annandale. His grandfather had once been a contender for the Scottish throne during a succession crisis in the 2290s. At the time, King Edward I of England was asked to arbitrate between the claimants. Rather than acting as a neutral judge, Edward asserted his authority over Scotland, effectively turning it into a vassal state. Initially, Robert the Bruce supported Edward I and even held lands under English rule. But by 1297, as tensions rose and English control deepened, Robert joined the Scottish uprising led by William Wallace. After Wallace resigned as guardian of the kingdom, Robert took up the role alongside John Comyn, a powerful rival. Their uneasy alliance eventually broke down. In 1306, Robert met Comyn in a church at Dumfries and killed him, an act that shocked Christendom but cleared Robert's path to the throne. On March 25, 1306, Robert the Bruce was crowned King of Scots at Scone. However, his early reign was marked by setbacks. Edward I viewed his coronation as rebellion and launched a brutal campaign against him. Robert suffered several defeats and was forced into hiding. It was during this period of exile that one of the most enduring legends about Robert emerged. Hiding in a cave, he watched a spider repeatedly attempt to spin a web. After failing many times, the spider finally succeeded. Inspired by the creature's persistence, Robert vowed never to give up. Over time, Robert rebuilt his forces and support. His greatest triumph came at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, where he led a vastly outnumbered Scottish army to a stunning victory over the English. This battle became a turning point in the war for Scottish independence and solidified his place in history as a brilliant leader and strategist. Robert the Bruce ruled until his death in 1329. By then, Scotland's independence was largely secured, and Robert had become more than just a king. He was a symbol of national resilience and pride. Alongside William Wallace, he is honored as one of the true champions of Scottish freedom. Number 6. Richard the Lionheart, Middle Ages warrior king. Richard the Lionheart, or Richard I of England, stands among the most renowned warrior kings of the medieval era. Born in 1157, he was the third son of King Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, and though he spent little time in England, his name became legendary across Christendom. Known as Richard Coeur de Lion, Heart of the Lion by the Normans, he earned this title not for ruling prowess, but for his courage, military talent, and chivalric reputation. Even as a teenager, Richard displayed remarkable martial ability. By the age of 16, he was already leading armies to suppress rebellions in France, where he grew up in his mother's duchy of Aquitaine. Fluent in French and immersed in the culture of knightly chivalry, Richard was admired for his commanding presence and fierce skill in battle. Richard became King of England in 1189, following the death of his father. However, he treated the English crown largely as a means to fund his military campaigns. His reign is most notable for his role in the Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, launched to reclaim Jerusalem after its capture by Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Richard co-led the crusade alongside King Philip II of France and Emperor Frederick Barbarossa, though tensions among the leaders often disrupted their cooperation. Despite not recapturing Jerusalem, Richard won several major battles and negotiated a settlement with Saladin that allowed Christian pilgrims access to the Holy City. His conduct during the crusade, brave, often reckless, and fiercely committed, solidified his status as one of the greatest warrior kings of the medieval world. Even his enemies acknowledged his valor, and Saladin is said to have respected Richard's bravery. After the crusade, Richard's journey home was interrupted when he was captured and held for ransom by Duke Leopold of Austria. His captivity lasted over a year, during which England was heavily taxed to pay for his release. Once free, Richard returned to his continental possessions, continuing to fight in France to defend his lands from French expansion under King Philip II. In 1199, while besieging the castle of Chalus in France, Richard was shot by a crossbow bolt in the shoulder. The wound became infected and he died soon after. His body was buried at Fontevraud Abbey beside his father, while his heart was interred in Rouen Cathedral and his entrails at Chalus, reflecting the medieval custom of dividing the remains of great knights who died far from home. Though his reign was short and he left little direct impact on domestic English governance, Richard the Lionheart became a legendary figure. He was celebrated in song, poetry, and later myth, most famously as the noble king in the tales of Robin Hood. A poet and patron of troubadours, Richard was not only a military hero but also a man of culture, embodying the ideals of the chivalric Knight King. Number 7. Bertrand du Guesclin, the Eagle of Brittany. Bertrand du Guesclin, known as the Eagle of Brittany, was one of the most formidable and respected knights of medieval France. His life and career spanned a critical period during the 100 Years' War, a time of near-constant conflict between England and France that tested the limits of chivalry, politics, and military innovation. Unlike the romantic image of the noble shining knight, Du Guesclin rose through hardship, not appearance or noble privilege, earning his reputation through grit, skill, and determination. Born around 1320 near Dinan in the Duchy of Brittany, Bertrand was the eldest son of Robert the Clagster du Guesclin, a minor Breton noble. His early life was marked by rejection. He was described as short, rough, and even ugly by contemporary accounts. One chronicler, Johannes Cuvelier, famously called him the ugliest child in the region. Despite being overlooked by his family, Bertrand's fiery spirit and physical toughness made him a natural fighter. According to legend, a fortune teller once foretold his greatness, prompting his parents to reconsider his worth. Bertrand was eventually knighted by Alacre de Marais and adopted the motto, Le courage donne ce que la beauté refuse. Courage grants what beauty denies. From that moment on, he forged a path not just as a warrior, but as a symbol of strength through merit. He first gained fame in tournaments and regional skirmishes, then joined the larger fight of the 100 Years' War, siding with Charles of Blois, a French claimant to the Breton throne, against the English-backed Jean de Montfort. Du Guesclin's military strategy was unorthodox for the time. Rather than engaging in glorious open battles, he preferred guerrilla tactics, ambushes, sieges, and deception. These methods proved especially effective in the thick woods of Paimpont Forest, also known as Brocéliande, the legendary forest of Arthurian myth. His enemies dubbed him the Black Dog of Brocéliande for his relentlessness and ability to strike from the shadows. His victories caught the attention of the French crown, and in 1370, King Charles V appointed Bertrand du Guesclin Constable of France, the kingdom's highest military rank. As commander-in-chief, he reorganized the French army, avoided wasteful large-scale battles, and focused on retaking territories lost to the English. Du Guesclin remained in service until his death in 1380, dying during a military campaign in Languedoc. Though not born to greatness, he earned it through loyalty, strategy, and unshakable will. Today, Bertrand du Guesclin is remembered not only as one of France's greatest knights, but as a symbol of tenacity, humility, and tactical brilliance in the twilight of medieval chivalry,